Part 22. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiaxu. Chapter 211. There is an invisible chain of contempt between universities. Even the 985 and 211 universities are not in the eyes of the students from the first school. In the eyes of the top students, art schools like theirs are probably the last resort if they are not capable enough to get into a good school. Just a choice. Wen Qiao continued to drink tea. The boy looked down on her, so she would not rush to flatter him. She was not a stranger, so there was no need to forcefully find a topic. After Su Yun and Su Hai finished speaking, they came over. Su Ying immediately became excited and said, "Auntie, let me introduce to you, this is my boyfriend." Su Yun was very considerate. "Oh, not bad, he is a talented person." Su Ying added, "He is also from Fukai University. He was the top scorer in science in Haikan during the college entrance examination." Su Yun, "Oh, really? It's really amazing." When she pouted, "Isn't it just the top scorer in the college entrance examination? Our Xiao Mo will definitely be the top scorer in the future, and it will be effortless." Su Ying, "Some time ago, he participated in an international computer competition and won the championship." Su Yun, "Really? This is really amazing." When she couldn't help but laugh in a low voice, "Our mother is really like the compliment in crosstalk, and she is quite cooperative." Su Ying was like pouring beans out of a bamboo tube, and kept talking. "There is a particularly well-known online trade union in the world called W Trade Union, and we, Yao Heng, are ranked 7th in it." Wen Qiao raised his eyebrows and laughed a little softly. Su Yun cooperated throughout the process. "You are really young and promising." 7th. That's all. Su Ying finally finished showing off, holding Yao Heng's arm, and glanced at Wen Qiao, knowing that eating and drinking was not polite at all. "Okay, aunt, I want to introduce him to the other elders. You can sit down and rest." After taking a few steps away, Yao Heng whispered, "Your relative has no sense of politeness." Su Ying chuckled softly, "In the art school, the education level is not very high, and my cousins are wild-tempered, and they can't speak a word. Everyone in the family is weird, forget it. I won't say any more to them, I'll introduce you to my brother and sister-in-law." Su Yun breathed out and sat down. Wen Qiao poured her a cup of tea. "Ms. Su is really considerate." Su Yun gently pinched her waist. "As a guest, of course you have to show your face. Don't be ignorant. Be good today." Wen Qiao shrugged, "I just ignored her and didn't quarrel with her. Am I not good enough?" Su Yun touched her head. Okay, you are the best." Wen Mo typed a few words on his phone. He was going to the bathroom. Wen Qiao whispered, "Want Wen Qi to accompany you?" Wen Mo shook his head and walked out alone. Came back soon. Not long after he sat down, he heard a commotion next to the stage. Wen Qiao didn't care and continued to scroll through his phone. Then I heard a voice coming from the other side, "The computer is working fine, why is it broken? It will be playing the video of the bride and groom in a while. Why is it broken at this moment?" Wen Qiao glanced at her Xiao Mo, who looked innocent. Then Su Ying's voice was heard, "Let Yao Heng give it a try. He is a computer expert." Su Ying thought to herself that this was a good opportunity for Yao Heng to shine and let her family and friends, especially Wen Qiao, see how powerful her boyfriend was. Yao Heng walked to the computer and saw that the computer screen was completely blue. He whispered, "It seems to be poisoned." Su Ying, "Then fix it quickly, the wedding will start soon." Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiaxu. Chapter 212. Yao Heng sat down and quickly entered some codes, frowning deeply. This virus code was something he had never seen before, and there was no rules to follow. He was at a loss what to do for a moment, and a layer of sweat broke out on his forehead. His girlfriend's relatives were all watching him. If he couldn't conquer the virus and fix the computer today, he really wouldn't be able to get out of the situation. Su Ying didn't notice his predicament at all, and proudly showed off to her relatives, Yao Heng is the most powerful in the computer department of our school. He previously ranked first in the domestic computer competition, and he also has a very powerful guild. Nature, rank 7th. Relatives praised him, you are really young and promising. You are young and promising. Yao Heng was so anxious that his back was sweating. His fingers were flying on the keyboard quickly, using all his unique skills. However, the computer crashed even more. Wen Qiao held a lollipop given by a child in his mouth, stood next to him with his hands behind his back. Can't you? Let me try. Su Ying rolled her eyes at her. You want to try? Forget it, Yao Heng will fix it, so don't overestimate your capabilities here, okay? Wen Qiao raised his eyebrows. It's been 20 minutes, isn't your brother's wedding planned to be held? Su Ying gritted her teeth. Yao Heng turned his head and glanced at Wen Qiao. This girl was really talking arrogantly. She had a computer problem that even he couldn't solve. How dare such an art candidate dare to ask her to do it? Then let her give it a try and dampen her spirit. He stood up. Wen Qiao sat down leisurely, and typed 2 codes seemingly casually. Although the onlookers around me don't know much about computers. But when the boy was repairing the computer just now, the screen started to flicker, and it looked like it was getting worse as he repaired it. But the girl had just hit the keyboard twice, and the screen stopped flashing, and the letters stopped sliding past quickly. Wen Qiao's fingers continued to type the code in an orderly manner, which made people dizzy. Outsiders watched the excitement. An insider knows the way. Only Yao Heng was secretly surprised. This girl was actually a hidden computer expert? Or was it just a coincidence that her sick cat hit a dead mouse? In just 3 or 2 minutes, Wen Qiao tapped his fingers, entered the last letter, and the computer jumped to the desktop. The staff breathed a sigh of relief. Okay, little girl, you are really amazing. Su Ying was stunned. Just now she was talking about how good her boyfriend was at computers, but Wen Qiao immediately slapped her in the face, overcoming a computer obstacle that even Yao Heng could not overcome, and her face was too ugly. Wen Qiao stood up, holding the stick of the lollipop, hiding his merit and fame. Good luck, good luck. Su Ying glared at her and whispered to Yao Heng, I really love being in the limelight. Yao Heng's face darkened. He was compared with a student from an art school. He was really disgraced today. She is indeed lucky. Su Ying said, you must have almost solved it, but she suddenly took over and took advantage of you, right? Yao Heng said nothing, taking it as his acquiescence. Su Ying rolled her eyes at Wen Qiao. If she was so capable, she wouldn't be able to play the pipa. What's the big deal? Wen Qiao didn't bother to pay attention to her snobbish cousin and her cousin's boyfriend. She told Su Ying through her actions that your boyfriend who went back to college was nothing more than that. That's why he helped repair their computer, otherwise she wouldn't. He knows how to mind his own business. She held the lollipop in her mouth and returned to her table. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 213. This kind of marriage is very similar, except that the master of ceremonies tries his best to liven up the atmosphere, and finally tries his best not to make the bridegroom, bride, and relatives cry. When the whole family hugged each other and cried on the stage, Wen Qiao kept talking. The food was quite good, and the 600 yuan was not a waste of money. The banquet was finally over. Su Ying held her mother's arm and stood at the door of the banquet hall to see off the guests. She whispered, "Mom, don't bother my aunt and family anymore. You didn't see Wen Qiao acting like that just now. He was so rude. Shameful." He Mei patted her hand. "What do you know? That girl has already stepped into the entertainment industry, and look at her appearance. It's easy to find a rich man casually." Su Ying rolled her eyes and almost rolled up to the sky. What rich person can stand such a bad temper? Besides, Yao Heng is so outstanding, you are still not satisfied. He is not only excellent in academics, but also has a good family background. His family will prepare for it next year. He studied abroad, and her tone became excited. Yao Heng means to let me study abroad with him, and his family will pay for it. He Mei's eyes lit up instantly. Really? Is there any holiday left? I've met his parents, and everyone in his family likes me. He Mei breathed a sigh of relief. Okay, okay. So, don't go after my aunt's family in the future. What do they have? Why don't they just use their cleverness to steal 2 million from my ex-uncle? We don't care. He Mei pinched her fingers. You don't understand. I always feel that this girl Wen Qiao is holding back her energy. It's okay if you don't want to please her, but don't mess with her, you know. Su Ying sneered lightly and didn't take it seriously. Anyway, Wen Qiao will never find a better boyfriend than my Yao Heng. Wen Qiao picked up her coat and walked out with her family. Su Yun looked at her. Put on your coat, it's cold outside. Wear it when you go out, it's going to be stuffy in here. Put it on quickly. Soleil and Su Ying stood at the door and saw their aunt's family approaching. What they had to admit was that everyone in that family was tall, long-legged, and very good-looking. The two little cousins have not yet entered high school, and are taller than many adults. One is standing next to Wen Qiao, wearing dark gray coats, walking from the end of the red carpet. At a glance, they really look like what a noble young master in a wealthy compound. Their aunt was a well-known beauty when she was young, and Wen Jianmin was also good-looking, so the appearance of the children born between them was naturally incomparable to ordinary people. When Wen Qiao reached the door, he didn't even intend to stop, but was pulled by Su Yun. The lengthy polite words made her almost yawn. Finally, her uncle's family let them go, and she quickly ran away with her two younger brothers. Soleil's wife whispered, "Your cousins are pretty enough to be stars." Soleil chuckled, "You can't eat your face. I hate embroidered pillows the most. If the embroidered pillow thinks too highly of itself, it will be even more annoying." In the taxi, Wen Qiao chuckled and said, "I think it's not that big of a deal that the W Union is ranked 7th, Xiaomo, don't you think so?" When Mo took out his mobile phone and typed, "International, isn't this amazing?" Wen Qiao raised his hand and rubbed his head, "I feel normal." Su Yun in the passenger seat looked back at her. "Girl, don't talk nonsense." Wen Qiao raised his eyebrows but did not comment. In Fu Nanli's apartment, his personal doctor Li Fang handed a medical record report to him. Fu Nanli turned around and put the report on his bedside table, then left the room, looked at Li Fang and said, "If someone asks, do you know what to say?" "Li Fang, let's just say you still have amnesia." The boss who is still suffering from amnesia asks for recommendations. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 214. After Li Fang left, Fu Nanli stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window and smoked, his eyes reserved. Finally, he muttered "little liar" in a low voice, his tone full of helplessness, but also a bit inexplicably doting. He asked Lao Hu to drive to the alleyway of her home and picked her up to go to Xiaotangshan for dinner. Looking at the person next to me, she has fair skin, delicate and bright facial features, and a slender white swan neck. Because it is so white, the veins on her neck are clearly visible. I want to bite her hard and accuse her of being bold. After all, he still didn't want to let go and touched her head. Where did you say we first met? Wen Qiao's heart skipped a beat and she looked at him anxiously. Why do you ask this? Fu Nanli leaned his elbows on the back of the chair and played with the hair on her shoulders boredly. Ask. Wen Qiao said cautiously, have you recovered your memory recently? His breathing was a little stagnant. Fu Nanli closed his eyes lightly, and then said in a deep voice, no. Wen Qiao didn't know whether to breathe a sigh of relief or to feel uneasy. She could only continue to tell the lies she had prepared. It was a rainy day, I was walking on the roadside, and your car passed by quickly. The water splashed all over me, so I chased the car and came to argue with you. Fu Nanli raised his eyebrows slightly. Then I fell in love with you at first sight, right? Wen Qiao bit the bullet and said without shame, it should be so. Why did she have to tell this unspeakable lie a second time? Life is so hard. Looking up at Fu Nanli again, the smile on his lips was somewhat meaningful. Wen Qiao touched his neck uncomfortably. Okay, why do you ask this? After all, I have no memory of that time. You said it once, but I forgot it. I want to hear you say it again. Somehow, Wen Qiao's expression always exuded a meaning of I'll just watch you talk nonsense quietly. She must have thought too much. If someone like Fu Nanli really regained his memory, how could he still have to deal with her? With his power and position, it was just a matter of words for him to make her irrecoverable. There is a fixed project at the end of the Yangtze School of Music, which is to organize students to go to the school's UFA building. Each student goes to the rooftop and shouts out his wishes for the coming year or the troubles in his life, or whatever he wants to say. Today is the rooftop speech for freshman students. Lu Yuyu held Wen Qiao's arm and curled her lips. What are you shouting for now? Wen Qiao shrugged. The folk music department is getting better and better. Lu Yuyu pouted. It's so official. Then what are you going to say? Lu Yuyu chuckled. I hope I can be single in the new year. The one who was shouting on the rooftop was Su Lu. I hope that in the new year, I can become the pride of Yanjian, and I hope that Yanjian will get better and better. There was applause from below. Su Lu stood on the rooftop and could see Wen Qiao and Zhuang Yan. Zhuang Yan stood behind, separated by a few people from Wen Qiao, and his eyes were always on Wen Qiao. There were so many people applauding her, but there was no one named Zhuang Yan among them, so everything was meaningless. After Su Lu, several people went up and thought about their wishes for love. After all, puppy love was forbidden in high school. Once in college, this layer of restraint is gone. 20-year-old, young and beautiful, is the best time to fall in love. It was Zhuang Yan's turn. He was wearing a brown and gray checkered horn-button coat, looking like a young master from a European aristocratic school. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 215. The cold winter wind was blowing by, and his hair was flying in the wind. He looked at the person in the crowd, clenched his fists, and the words in his heart gathered in his chest. Fu Nanli's car stopped in front of UFA building, and he saw Wen Qiao in the crowd at a glance. She was tall, wearing an off-white short down jacket, and her long hair was spread casually. She was very standout. Yanjian had a small event in the evening, and he came over early to watch her performance. When he looked up, he saw that the person standing on the balcony was the boy named Zhuang Yan. His bodyguard explained to him, this is a regular event held at the end of every semester in Yanjian. Students will shout out their innermost thoughts on this balcony. The car window was half open, and Zhuang Yan on the rooftop finally began to speak. I once liked a girl very much. The veins on his neck were exposed as he spoke, and he used all his strength to fight against his teenage self-esteem. Su Lu's heart sank completely. Wen Qiao looked at the hysterical young man and felt very calm. When I was in high school, I was a conceited and aloof boy who valued face more than anything else. Fu Nanli's jawline slowly tightened, his eyes were filled with cold light, his breathing was slightly suffocated, and he only looked at Wen Qiao in the crowd. Qiao, if there are no other reasons, who would you choose? When that girl confessed her love to me, I didn't accept it. This is the most regretful thing in my life. I arbitrarily believed the false messages about her in the school. I spent every day in regret. I was wrong. Sorry. This was the first time Zhuangyan said sorry. He stood in the cold wind, looking down at her in the crowd, saying sorry over and over again. Lu Yuyu's eyes turned red when she said this. Zhuangyan, what is he doing? Qiao, one code is the same, I really didn't expect him to bow his head one day. Wen Qiao shrugged. Lu Yuyu said again, if it weren't for Mr. Fu, would you forgive Zhuangyan? Wen Qiao shook his head gently, there is no such thing. The sky was clear, but Su Lu's heart was gloomy. Zhuangyan didn't even care about it. For Wen Qiao, he gave up the self-esteem he was most proud of. The only thing she was glad about was that Wen Qiao had Fu Nanli by her side. Wen Qiao wanted to be half-hearted, but Fu Nanli would not allow it. Zhuangyan will never have that chance in his life. Zhuangyan finally walked down from the rooftop. He was calm and sober, but he did not regret his crazy behavior just now. He faced his heart and overcame the obstacles in his heart. Finally it was Wen Qiao's turn. She was the last one. It wasn't until she stood on the terrace that she saw a black Maybach parked not far away. It was Fu Nanli's car. She said a few words and hoped that folk music would get better and better. Mandarin. The people in front of Yufa building gradually dispersed, leaving only Zhuangyan, Sulu, Zhaotong, and a few people from Wen Qiao's dormitory. She quickly went downstairs. Passing by Zhuangyan's heart beat extremely fast, but she just passed him by without stopping or staying. She didn't even have him in her eyes. She ran back quickly. He followed her figure and turned his gaze, and saw her running to a black car. Fu Nanli was sitting in the car, watching her walking towards him with a smile in her eyes, and her heart sank inch by inch. Whether you love me or not, you can only stay with me. How did you come? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 216. Fu Nanli reached out to open the car door and pulled him into the car. Wen Qiao lost his balance and fell directly into his arms. Zhuangyan witnessed the whole process, and his heart felt as if he had been stabbed hard by a sharp knife. The sadness was so intuitive. The car slowly passed in front of several people. Zhuangyan's breath was stagnant and he watched the car go away. Fu Nanli looked at the person in his arms. Zhuangyan is talking about you, right? Wen Qiao wanted to break free from his arms and answer him seriously, but the man's arms were restrained, preventing her from moving. Probably so. Should. Wen Qiao looked at him helplessly. It's me, I'm the one he's talking about, but I can't control what he wants to say. The man's rough fingertips touched her face. Then what do you think? Wen Qiao was a little confused. What are you thinking? There are many people who like her. They are similar in age, have similar hobbies, and all love music. The boy is visibly outstanding, handsome, and talented. The most important thing is that that boy is the boy Wen Qiao once liked. Wen Qiao told the truth, I don't have any ideas. The past is the past. Regrets and regrets will not let yesterday's time come back again. I have you by my side now. The little fox is beautiful, but also dangerous. Even though the little fox told lies without changing his face, he still couldn't help but fall. Just take what she said as true. Sulu has been very depressed recently, and Wen Qiao's harsh words are still ringing in her ears. No matter how much she hates Wen Qiao, no matter how twisted her heart is, she doesn't dare to do any small tricks behind her back. It will be fine if her nose bridge is broken and reattached, but if the bone is broken and then reattached, it will definitely affect her playing the piano. But Wen Qiao was so beautiful. Not only did she successfully perform in Siwen on Thanksgiving Day, she was also revealed to be Mu Yu, stealing the show. Zhuang Yan also publicly apologized to her. The current evaluation of Wen Qiao and the folk music club by students in the school is actually changing subtly. In class that day, Song Yu said, "Wen Qiao plays the pipa really well," and the other boys didn't even refute. At that time, she felt like she was facing a formidable enemy. If things continued like this, Wen Qiao would completely turn around and counterattack. When I was upset, I received a text message on my phone. "I plan to flatter you, are you interested?" Sulu's heart suddenly shrank and she read the sentence several times. What did it mean? Was it sent by mistake? Or some kind of scam company? Why do you say such a thing for no reason? Who are you? Are you sure you sent this message to me? Do you know me? What do you mean you plan to flatter me? The other party responded quickly, "Don't you want to be a talented music producer like Mu Yu?" Sulu's fingers were trembling a little. "How are you going to support me? Someone will write lyrics and music, just sign your name." Sulu's heart boiled, and her desire for fame and fortune made her forget about using fake means. But she was still worried about "Who are you? Why do you want to help me? What will happen to my reputation if this is exposed one day?" The other party replied, "My identity will not be leaked. You have no talent. If you want to become famous, you will naturally have to take certain risks. It depends on you. As for who I am, you don't have to be curious. I'm just a person who wants you to become famous and become another business card of Yanjian. If you don't want to, I can choose someone else." Seeing the sentence, "You have no talent," Sulu was so angry that her heart ached, but she had no way to refute, so she could only reply, "I agree," while holding her breath. Please vote for recommendation. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 217. She didn't want to miss this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It's just an adventure. Life is all about taking a chance and starving the brave to death and starving the timid to death. Happy cooperation. I will contact you about how to operate in the future. I will package you as an independent musician and you will become famous. However, do not participate in variety shows because the host will ask you to improvise and you may be questioned. Try to participate as little as possible in interviews and so on, and maintain a sense of mystery. Got it? Just thinking about it made Sulu's blood boil. Good. What she once said, "All gifts given by fate have already been marked with a secret price," has come true for herself. She was blinded by her own greed, and she had no time to think about the heavy price she would have to pay if the truth was revealed one day. People whose abilities are not worthy of their ambition are really pathetic. The old lady of the Ye family came to Hiken with Ye Mingkai because she wanted to see her grandson-in-law so much. I live in Yuanese mansion in the urban area. All the plane trees are planted around the mansion. Now that all the leaves have fallen in winter, the streets are much brighter than usual. Even though it was cold winter, the floor in the house was very warm. The old lady was wearing a cheongsam, looking graceful and elegant. "That little girl, when can I see you?" Ye Mingkai made black tea for the old lady, washed the tea several times, and said slowly, "How about I test that kid's tone first?" The old lady was dissatisfied. "You mother-in-law, why do you still look at your son's face based on your tone?" "Hey, my old mother, it's not like you don't know what your grandson's temper is like. If you make him unhappy, what can I do if you become a captain for the rest of your life? I also want to play mahjong with you and go out for a walk." The old lady poked her in the forehead. I'm just having fun, don't say anything, just make excuses from me. I'll call and ask what that guy means. Yaminkyu dialed the phone and Fu Nanli's voice came quickly, what's the matter? With this business-like tone, Yaminkyu complained, at first glance, I thought you were my boss. You have something to say? Yaminkyu couldn't help rolling her eyes, well, the old lady wants to see your little girlfriend. No. The phone was on speakerphone, so the old lady heard it clearly, her face darkened, and she was a little unhappy. Why not? Didn't she come to Shaocheng to find you last time? Fu Nanli's voice was very indifferent, she accepts life. Yaminkyu raised her eyebrows. She had seen that girl before. She was obviously elegant and generous, but she didn't look shy at all. Your grandma came to Hiken just because she wanted to see her. You kid, bring her here to meet her. We'll talk about it later. I still have things to do, so I'll hang up. Yaminkyu looked at the phone and clicked his tongue, you bastard. The old lady was also unhappy, we don't eat people, do you need to be so defensive about us? Yaminkyu said, she seems to be very precious to that little girl. The old lady became interested again, I really don't dare to think about it. I always thought that Nanli didn't have any emotions. We don't need to worry about Nanli, I'll go find the little girl myself. Yaminkyu asked the driver to drive to Yanjian. It was Friday. After the car waited at the back door for a while, he saw Wen Qiao and a girl walking out carrying bags. It was a warm winter day. The little girl was wearing a loose off-white short down jacket, jeans, and ankle boots. She was tall and slender and stood out in the crowd. She got out of the car and Wen Qiao was a little surprised to see Mrs. Fu. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 218. Yaminkyu looked at her with a smile, did you go to Shaocheng to find our Nanli last time? Wen Qiao felt it was hard to say anything and said uncomfortably, yes. Yaminkyu didn't say anything embarrassing about being quite clingy. He just said, go find Nanli, the old lady also knows about it. The old lady has been in Hiken these 2 days and said she wanted to see you. Wen Qiao's heart skipped a beat, not only seeing his mother, but now he also had to see his grandmother. She took out her phone, let me tell him. The relationship between them is now a bit delicate, and she doesn't dare to make the decision without authorization. Needless to say, he is busy. Get in the car quickly and go to Yuani's mansion to have dinner with the old lady. After dinner, I will have someone take you home. Although Yaminkyu does not look strong, the determination in his words is irresistible. Wen Qiao could only bite the bullet and get into her car and say goodbye to Lu Yuyu. The car drove into the lane and the sky gradually darkened. Wen Qiao held the mobile phone in his hand, feeling a little uneasy. He went to see his grandmother without telling Fu Nanli. Is that okay? She seemed to be pushed forward by the big hand of fate. Many times, the development of things was beyond her control. Yuani's mansion is located in the city center, where every inch of land is precious. It has a Republican-style building, ivory white marble walls, and carved iron railings. When the car entered the courtyard, it was a camphor trail, illuminated by floor lamps. The scenery is exquisite. The car stopped in front of an old bungalow with blue bricks and red tiles. Wen Qiao got out of the car with Yaminkyu and entered the bungalow. The room is exquisitely and elegantly furnished, with mahogany furniture and a fire burning in the fireplace. Sitting on the dark brown leather sofa is an old man with silver hair and wearing a dark green velvet cheongsam. She wears glasses and a gold glasses chain hangs from her ears. There is a book on his lap. Hearing the commotion, he looked towards her. The old man had a kind face and kind eyes, which made people feel kind at first sight. Wu Yui looked up and saw the little girl, tall and long-legged, with a high ponytail, white and beautiful. She was looking at her curiously. Her eyes were not cautious, but she could tell she was intelligent. It suited her eyes, and she liked this child at first sight. Wen Qiao walked to the sofa, and Ye Mingqiu introduced her. She obediently called her old madam. I didn't dare to call grandma. Wu Yui stood up, took a red envelope from the table and put it into her hand. Just call me grandma. Wen Qiao frowned slightly. I can't accept your red envelope. The old lady smiled and patted her hand. This is our tradition, just keep it. Wen Qiao felt ashamed that each of Fu Nanli's family members was better than the last. They did not have the common sense of superiority and self-esteem common to rich families. Instead, they treated others peacefully and without any airs, which made her feel friendly. Her grandmother had passed away a long time ago. The old man treated her so kindly, and she instantly felt so warm that she wanted to rely on her. I came in a hurry and didn't buy a gift. Wu Yui took her hand and walked to the dining room. I know you came in a hurry. It was Nan Li's mother who intercepted you. Of course you are not late. It doesn't matter. If you have a meal with me, an old woman, consider it as a gift to me. Yes, huh? Wen Qiao, I eat your food, no matter how you look at it, I am taking advantage. The old lady was happy. Then next time you invite me out for dinner, what do you think? Okay, what flavor do you like? My food is fine, just lighter. Wen Qiao silently kept it in mind. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me. The boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 219. The butler put the casserole on the table, dried bao yaozu chicken soup. The dishes are ready. Old lady, madam, you can eat now. The sky was getting darker and darker, the lights in the dining room were warm, and 4 dishes and 1 soup were placed on the mahogany table. The dishes were rich and looked appetizing. Although the old lady is old, she takes good care of herself. There are not many wrinkles on her hands. The emerald ring highlights the white skin of her hands. At first glance, she looks like a rich old lady who is being taken care of. She picked up the spoon, scooped out a small bowl of soup, and placed it in front of Wen Qiao. Take a sip of the soup first. Thank you. Wen Qiao picked up the bowl of soup and drank it. Ye Mingqiu's heart skipped a beat. Her mother was a real lady. At that time, her family was very strict and there were many rules. When drinking soup, she could only use a small spoon to bring it into her mouth one by one. There can't be any collision between them. If the little girl drinks from the bowl, will the old lady feel that she is not educated enough? Apparently she was over-worrying. The old lady looked at Wen Qiao cheerfully, with earnest and kind eyes. Does it taste good? Come to think of it, it's a second-generation kiss. Wen Qiao nodded. It tastes good. Then drink more. A voice came from outside the door. Where? It was Fu Nanli's voice. Ye Mingqiu's brows twitched. It came too quickly. The butler's voice sounded. The old lady and the others are eating in the dining room, young master. Wen Qiao put down the bowl and looked towards the living room, and soon saw Fu Nanli walking towards her with a bad expression. Fu Nanli strode to the dining room, grabbed Wen Qiao's wrist, and said with a hint of urgency in his voice, "Who asked you to come here?" The little liar was so bold that he came to see his grandmother. He could manipulate her, but others could not. Wen Qiao was a little at a loss and stood up quickly. Fu Nanli pulled her out. Seeing her grandson's gloomy expression, the old lady didn't dare to speak. Ye Mingqiu followed behind and said, "I brought her here. You don't have to be like this." Fu Nanli frowned and said nothing. Wen Qiao felt a little stuffy and said quickly, "I'm sorry." Fu Nanli had already pulled him into the car. Yamingkai wanted to say something else, but the car quickly left the yard. Yamingkai put one hand on her hips and the other between her eyebrows, and shouted angrily to the back of the car as she drove away, "You should understand who is my mother and who is my son. You brat, you don't take your mother seriously." Her son was so resolute that he took the person away in less than 2 minutes. His attitude was also somewhat intriguing, as if he was very unhappy. She turned back to the dining room, and the old lady asked worriedly, "Why is Nan Li so angry?" Yamingkai took a sip of soup. "It's indeed a bit strange. Could it be that, he didn't intend to take it seriously, it was just for fun? If we are so self-concerned about meeting a little girl, we will make it impossible for him to step down." The old lady glanced at her. "Is your son like this?" Yamingkai spread his hands. "I don't know what he is thinking at all. Our mother and son never talk to each other, and he doesn't tell me anything." In the car, the atmosphere was a little tense. Wen Qiao could feel that Fu Nanli was unhappy. Was he unhappy because she met his family without permission? "Who asked you to come?" he asked. There was a lingering fear in my heart, fearing that she had said something wrong. Wen Qiao didn't say a word. She didn't want any unhappiness between mother and son to happen because of her. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked again, his tone as gentle as possible. Please vote for recommendation. In addition, please remember to rate your comments with 5 stars. Those with less than 5 stars will be deleted. Also, please remember to leave your monthly pass to me. It will be released on the 17th, and there will be an update of 50,000 words that day, okay? Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 220. Wen Qiao lowered his eyes and whispered, "I'm sorry." Seeing her guilty look, Fu Nanli said softly, "Don't see them again." Wen Qiao nodded, "Yes, I understand." 20 minutes later, the car stopped at the entrance of her alley, and Fu Nanli said solemnly, "I have to go back for a meeting, so you go home first." Wen Qiao stood in the wind, watching the rear of the car with the red light on gradually disappear from his sight. His fingertips felt a little cold, so he put them in his pocket, lowered his head, and walked home along the long alley. At 8 o'clock in the evening, in the conference room of Dongchuan Airlines, the meeting ended. Ji Xianzheng lit a cigarette and looked at his cousin, who seemed to be worried. "The meeting was going well just now, why did you suddenly go out?" His cousin has always been calm and rational, and he has never seen him in such a panic. Fu Nanli leaned back on the chair and rubbed his eyebrows. "Wen Qiao went to Yuanyi's mansion. I took her out." "Huh? She went to see the old lady? Just meet her. Why did you bring her out?" "No matter you like her or not, the old lady will never make things difficult for others. Although the old lady is old, she is very wise. My mother is even more sharp-eyed. I am afraid that she will say something wrong and reveal her fault." Ji Xianzheng was puzzled. She hasn't done anything criminal, so how can she reveal her flaws? Fu Nanli lit a cigarette and frowned deeply. "It's nothing. I can't understand you." The kitchen of Wen Qiao's house was a bungalow. She climbed up on the ladder and lay down on the flat cement floor. She needed the cold to wake her up. She couldn't think of a reason why he was angry, and she didn't dare to ask him. She always felt that he didn't like her asking more questions. She was very nervous, and all her sensitivity was used on Fu Nanli alone. Maybe Fu Nanli was usually too kind to her, but when he became a little cold and fierce, she felt a little aggrieved. She stretched out her hand and slapped herself lightly. The guy who pushed too hard. You should not have the luxury of being wronged. The north wind passed over the head, the sky was high, and a few stars dotted the lonely sky. Wen Qi shouted, "Wen Qiao, what are you doing? Lying on the roof in the cold weather?" Wen Qiao quickly got up, went down the ladder, returned to the room, and sent a message to Dong Yao. Has your grandpa heard about my symptoms? The message came back quickly. I haven't heard of it. He wants to check the ancient books and ask some of his friends. It takes time. Why are you in a hurry? When Xiao sighed, he could only be a little liar next to Fu Nanli. She actually wanted to confess to him at all costs, but he looked like he didn't want to hear it, so she didn't dare to act rashly. Let's wait a little longer. She would confess everything after Dong Yao had some practical solution to her worries. She touched her pocket and saw that the red envelope given by the old lady was still on her. When she took it, she felt it was so thick. She opened it and counted it. 3,600 yuan was too much. It was a little hot to her hands. She got up and walked out, walking from her home to Fu Nanli's apartment. Less than 20 minutes later, when she arrived, the headlights of the car behind her made her unable to open her eyes. The car lights suddenly went out, and she saw clearly that it was Fu Nanli's car. Wen Xiao stepped forward quickly, and Fu Nanli got out of the car. He saw that the tip of her nose was red from the cold, and his heart suddenly tightened. He took her away too eagerly just now, and it seemed that his tone was not good, and she should have been wronged.